earlier we talked about this tension between, on the one hand, taking the long view and having patience and allowing what has to happen to take seed and to grow on the one hand. And on the other hand, I think we both understand we need solutions now. We need to act now.
Mm-hmm.
So what advice, suggestions, thoughts do you have about how we can make this balance between taking the long view, 7th-generation thinking, this idea of being good ancestors, and building those kinds of things that will last generations, and the change that will truly be sustainable, while at the same time moving quickly, move as fast as we possibly can. You use the term that progress will be determined and will go at the speed of trust. What more can you say about how we might be able to accelerate the change that we, I think, collectively believe is needed in Canada?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And it's really one of those tough things to sort out, because there are things that can be done in that address some of the urgency in our communities, like education systems, clean drinking water, the ability, sort of on a broader scale, for Indigenous people to be able to implement the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People in terms of how projects will impact on Aboriginal and treaty rights. And we're seeing some of that through the different provinces in the federal government talking about the urgency of national projects, which I think a lot of Indigenous leaders and people more generally worry that urgency has a potential to not take into account the voice of Mother Earth in terms of how that urgency it is addressed. So some of this is in the how, like how we do things, and not imposing structure and change on people, but finding ways of doing things together in a way that helps to create confidence, or confidence building type of things that really help to demonstrate trustworthiness, I think, is important. I mean, I don't know why clean drinking water for Indigenous people isn't a national project.
Right.
Like, there's billions of dollars of work to do there. Same with education. But this idea about the role of Indigenous human rights as expressed through the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People is, I mean, it's inevitable that is going to be part of the Canadian legal and political fabric. And either we find ways of working on that in a cooperative fashion, or we end up doing it in a confrontational fashion and having the courts weigh in on it, rather than having people sort of sort through, and governments and institutions sort through how that can actually be done. To me, that's a great national project, is to figure that one out. If we're really talking about nation building, it as important as maybe some of the infrastructure projects that are being talked about, social and cultural infrastructure, constitutional infrastructure is really important too. And as a country, we've just come through COVID, and then we get punched in the eye by tariffs by Donald Trump, and just when people were kind of so many people just wanted, I think, things to get back to normal. And I would encourage them, I'd say, no, like, normal's no good.
Right.
Normal means 50% of First Nations children grow up in poverty. Normal means, like, all these terrible, that's normal. That's what we've accepted, or maybe blindly accepted in some ways in Canada, that's the way things are. That's not a good normal.